Siku and Jema A. We are carrying on with the cell membrane, and we're looking at two processes on this side of the page called diffusion and osmosis. If you need more information about the cell membrane, you can look at your read all about it or read more about it sheet that says cell membrane. And you should also look at sections 1.7 and 1.8 of the textbook handouts. So here's a definition of diffusion that you are expected to know. It simply says diffusion is when a material spreads out from an area of high concentration to low concentration. So in other words, where you have a lot of material, it's naturally going to spread out through the air or through water to an area of lower concentration. In the next video that has descriptions or demos of diffusion, you'll be able to see that actually happening. You'll see one where it's going through water and one through air. A little hard to see it going through air. What's nice about diffusion is it requires no energy. It happens naturally. And this is very useful to a cell to not have to spend energy to get things in or out. Now, sometimes cells do have to spend energy on it, but not for what we're talking about. So we think about diffusion. What do we want to get into a cell? Well, we'd like to get things like sugar. We'd like to get oxygen in our cells, so they will diffuse from blood into a cell. We want to get rid of carbon dioxide. It will diffuse the other way. It will go from the cell into the bloodstream. And that tells us those are fairly small molecules that they can do that. We have examples of diffusion happening that you may have encountered. You might remember the purple stuff, and that's demonstrated in the video. The nice smell of baked bread, that's an example of diffusion of material through air. So here it reminds us that diffusion is incredibly important to a cell. It allows things to go in and out without having to spend energy. And the cell membrane is called selectively permeable because smaller things can fit through, so things like sugar and oxygen and carbon dioxide may be able to get through, whereas larger things like your cell organelles, your mitochondria, your nucleus, ribosomes, they are going to be too big to leave. Now, next thing we look at is something called osmosis. And osmosis is a type of diffusion. It's a special kind of diffusion, and here is the definition. It's the diffusion of water through a selectively permeable membrane. And what we see in this diagram, on the left it says, oh, we have a high water concentration, so that means we have a lot of water molecules here. On this side we don't have as many water molecules, so that's low water concentration. And what that also means is on the left we have a low solute concentration. That solute could be sugar, it could be salt. And on the right we have a high solute concentration. So what happens to balance it, we can see our solute appears to be too big to fit through the membrane. The membrane is symbolized here by this dashed line with little holes in it. And what that means is the only thing to go back and forth in this case is the water. So we'd have water going to the left, we'd have water going to the right, but overall we're going to have a flow of water to the right. That flow of water, that diffusion of water through the membrane, is called osmosis. So from this video, you should have some idea about diffusion and osmosis.